All right, everyone. How are you doing? Welcome to the Sports Card Therapist, where I give you a behind the scenes look at my hobby hustle and sprinkle in some self care and wellness on top of that. I'm Rob Gerard, your Sports Card Therapist. And whether if you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, or watching on YouTube, welcome to the podcast. I almost feel like I kind of like flubbed that intro right there, real quick. It's an intro I've basically been using for 200 episodes, and tonight of all nights, I think I almost flubbed it. So, I started to stumble over my words a little bit. Here we are, though. This is episode 203. 203 is my area code in Connecticut, where I was born and raised, an area code and a number that I'm extremely proud of. So, episode 203, 203 in Connecticut. I just put two and two together literally as I was logging on right now and seeing that. I was like, oh, wow, look at that, 203. So, this episode I am calling Random Thoughts. Random Thoughts. And, um, I think probably there's probably a nice little sliver of my solo podcast episodes that are just really random thoughts, right? And I'm quite certain I've called a solo episode Random Thoughts before, but I think like half my episodes there are interviews, and the other half are solo, and probably a sliver of those really don't have a topic. And that's kind of like how tonight's episode is going to be. It's going to be just a kind of me coming out with things that have been in my mind. They've probably been in my mind for a few weeks now. And especially things that probably have been in my mind over the last 24 or 48 hours. So I think that's probably the direction that I am going to go with this episode. Let's see. We have some people in the house. Jake, 90s B-ball cards. How are you? Ziggy, how are you? Jake says Rob's been drinking with a winky face. James Lumen says, let's go. We still get Funkle Rob on Sundays. I love it. Georgetown 65 says, thank you for the Sunday evening content. Listening while taking a walk around my neighborhood after putting my kids to sleep. Currently 102 degrees here in Dallas. Well, Georgetown 65, man, listen, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. I appreciate all you guys. So the fact that you're listening to me while taking a walk around your neighborhood, very humbling stuff, very humbling stuff. So I appreciate that. And this has been one of the really cool things I think about going live, as I've been doing more and more over the last 6 months. Probably like 6 to 8 months ago, I said, Self, I think if you really want to, I guess, I don't know, grow the brand. I don't know if what my brand is, to be honest with you. I just kind of do my thing on here. But if you want to grow and reach more people, I think paying more attention to YouTube, going live, I think those are all certain things that, I've been trying to do in the last 6 to 8 months. So, I could appreciate that. And even though I get, really cool DMs from people that listen to the podcast, that's really where the foundation has been, where my foundation has been built and really grown, has been on the podcast front. So, I've gotten some incredible DMs from people over the last few years that have listened, but I think to be able to go live, it is a different dynamic. So, in the last 6 months or so, I would say probably about a third of my episodes on the podcast end up going live. So that's been pretty cool. It's something that I enjoy. So yeah, so today's called Random Thoughts, and I don't have anything really in place that I'm going to talk about. I'm just going to kind of see where it goes. I know one thing that's been on my mind is 2 nights ago, I believe it was Friday night. This year is the hip hop's 50th anniversary, and there was a massive concert at Yankee Stadium. So I did not go. I wish I went. I tell you, for someone that really has their finger on the pulse of music and even current hip hop like the way I do, I'm shocked that I just completely flew past my radar, considering I'm like 45 minutes to Yankee Stadium, and I go there regularly anyways. I would have absolutely went. The lineup looked insane. So happy 50th to hip hop, that's for sure. I tell you what, in my household, we are getting ready for the NFL. We are getting ready for football. My wife is a huge sports fan, just like I am. And we cannot wait for the Giants to see what they can do. And, there's some hope there, not a lot of faith. When you're a Giants fan, I think faith really went out. Faith that you're going to be dominant or have a chance to go to the Super Bowl probably went out the window. I want to say, honestly, probably like the early 90s. Even throughout Michael Strahan's career, we had Tiki Barber, that went over into the Eli Manning era, and everything that entailed with the 2 Super Bowl wins. It's just hard to have any kind of faith that the Giants were ever going to be dominant. I think once Parcells left, I think Parcells left in 92. I want to say 92 off the top of my head, but yeah, so, best of luck to everyone out there who's listening. Best of luck to you and your football team, you and your fantasy leagues and whatnot. Speaking of Yankee Stadium, I'm going to be going there and I think it's next Sunday. I think next Sunday I'm going to be going to Yankee Stadium again, the wife and I. And as part of a card deal, like 6 months ago, this gentleman who I made this big deal with, he paid me half cash and then half box seats at Yankee Stadium. And we've already gone to one game. We went to one game 2 weeks ago against the Houston Astros, and then we're going to the other game next week. Against the Boston Red Sox. Let me tell you something. These box seats, when you have tickets in the Legends suite, I never knew this before. Of the hundreds of times that I've gone to Yankee Stadium, I've never sat in the Legend seats. And when you sit in the Legend seats, down below, like directly behind like home plate area, there's this huge like 5-star buffet where it's nothing but like prime rib, lobster tails, and it's all you can eat. Anything you want that you can eat. So my wife and I, our minds were blown 2 weeks ago. So we're going again next week. And we said, we are going early. We're going early. We're going to eat 4 times and we're just going to enjoy the game. So, really cool stuff, because seriously, we're not box seats people. We're not box seats people. So, the fact that we were able to get this in a deal, involving cards, I guess is kind of cool. I would have preferred cash or cards, but he had Yankees tickets, and because I'm a Yankees fan, it made sense. So, thanks, cards. That's an inside joke with between me and Craig, New York City Sports Cards. Thanks, cards. So yeah, definitely. So looking back over the last few episodes, I definitely just want to, because I feel like I don't do this enough. Every time there's so much going on, it feels like that every time I come on for a new episode, I never look in the rear view. I never look in the rear view and kind of give flowers to either the people that came on, give thank yous or do any kind of like recaps. It's always moving forward. So tonight I was like, let's talk for a couple minutes at least about the last couple episodes. So a few days ago, Big Ken from Sports Card Lessons came on. Ken, one of my best friends, incredible guy. We've been frequent collaborators ever since he started his podcast. And, we set up together. I was just at his house today. I just went to his house today. So, good friend. So he came on a few days ago. We just kind of talked about shows we're going to be at, where we're seeing our hobby and content journeys going, so it's just kind of like, just good conversation. The episode before that was with Nate and Jonathan. And let me tell you something, the amount of feedback I got about these guys, so this was episode 201, and I forget exactly what we called it, but it was basically collectors discussing their national experience. 2 guys who are friends. I'm friends with them. They're closer friends, so they really know each other, and really just talking about what it was like hunting for cards at the National. And the feedback I got from people was, because these guys are primarily vintage collectors, but the feedback that I got from listeners were, I don't even collect vintage, and it was one of the greatest episodes I've ever heard. I had multiple people message me and say they listened back a second time. I'm like, you listened back a second time? That is nuts. And this is just one of those episodes where it does feel like I kind of caught lightning in a bottle. And one of these episodes where I take my hand off the steering wheel and I really let the guests guide the episode. And if at any time, and if to me, it's almost like when I'm facilitating groups, it's almost like group therapy. For me, the best kind of groups are groups where me being the instructor, I don't have to talk much. I'm always crossing my fingers for there to be a really good group dynamic to where the group really starts taking the ball and running with it. And if I have to put my hand back on the steering wheel for a minute and kind of guide the ship, and get it back on course, then I'll definitely do that. But yeah, this was just one of those episodes that was incredible. They both shared their stories. You know, just incredible collectors. So if you did not listen to that, I urge you go back and listen to episode 201 with Nate and Jonathan. You definitely won't regret it. So just got back from the video guy so we had a guy get some video footage of the Wolfpack trade night at the National. So all that footage was in my email this morning. It feels like it's probably old news at this point. Like who wants to look at footage from the National 2 weeks later, right? But I think for us, for the Wolfpack, was really cool that we could kind of get some good footage and have that for ourselves. We'll probably be putting it up on all of our YouTube. So that'll be going up at some point, I guess. Speaking of Craig from New York City Sports Cards, shout out to him. He did a post that he went to a storage unit, I think, in New York City and picked up like 8 cards for $50, right? Like 8 cards for $50. And he posted a picture of the cards that he got. So I saw 2 of the cards. It was a flawless Keith Hernandez on card auto, New York Met Keith Hernandez, and a Michael Jordan 90s insert, the En Fuego, that one. So first of all, little does he know, I've been just watching these Jordans on eBay, the En Fuego ones. I have no idea. There's really 2 of them that I've really wanted, probably 3 actually, and I'll tell you the story to all of them. So there's 3 Jordan inserts. They're probably considered to be the lower end inserts, but regardless, that I've been really looking at and wanting to get because of how cool they look. And I actually reached out to Jake from 90s B-Ball Cards. I talked to him about a couple of these, but one of them was the En Fuego. So when I saw that Craig had that, I immediately was like, hey man, how much are you looking to get for that? The second Jordan insert I'm looking at is the Sticky Fingers. I just want a Jordan Sticky Fingers. I'm not going to break the bank buying it, but it's one of those iconic Jordan inserts that I've wanted for a long time, so why not pull the trigger? And then the next one is a Jordan Scoring Kings, right? The iconic 93 Scoring Kings. So I owned a Jordan Scoring Kings because I had the entire Jordan Kings set, the Scoring Kings set. I had the entire Scoring King set, all Beckett 9s. But when I was trying to get this Bill Russell 61 Fleer in action on card auto, I'll grab it. So when I was working out a deal for this, we were having an issue coming to a price. We're having an issue coming to a price on it. So I said, hey, if you want to try to see what I have for trade, great. So I sent him a couple things. I'm like, I really don't want to break this Scoring King set. I'm probably never going to get a BGS 9 again. But I put that as trade bait for him, and he was like, yeah, I'll take the Jordan Scoring Kings. I think it was right at comp too. So So long story short, I need to replace my Scoring Kings, but I'll take anything. If it's a PSA 7, I'll take that. I'll throw it in. It's kind of like a placeholder kind of thing. And then the Keith Hernandez auto, I'm a massive Seinfeld fan. I mean, like every single episode memorized. So Keith Hernandez played a pivotal role on a single episode of Seinfeld, and he's gone down in Seinfeld history for his role, of himself, Keith Hernandez. So I'm like, I have one Keith Hernandez card. It's the Flawless Nicknames, and he signed it. He has one of the best signatures in all sports, by the way. But he signed it, and then in quotes he put "Pretty Boy." It's right over there in my display case. So then I saw that Craig had this other Flawless Keith Hernandez, and I'm like, do I want to start a Keith Hernandez PC all because of Seinfeld? So I don't know. We're gonna see where it goes. So I got those 2 off Craig. So So definite shout out to Craig. And what I will say is Craig, that little snake in the grass, I said, I think I'm going to start a Keith Hernandez side PC now. And he called me a side PC whore. I think he called me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, you're always doing side PCs. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I am. But I've had some shift in what my primary collecting is, I think. So at the very top of my PC pyramid, it's always been Mickey Mantle and Hulk Hogan, but really just the vintage Hogan and just the vintage Mickey Mantle, obviously. So vintage has really always been the top of my PC pyramid. But now I think, I don't want to say Mickey Mantle or Hulk Hogan got bumped, but it feels like Eli Manning has kind of made it to the top of that PC. I've been having so much fun buying Eli for the last year, and I feel like I've talked about him a lot on this show. So I said, okay, who else is a side PC? Because he called me a side PC whore. So I said, listen, my John Stockton side PC, still have that. My Mean Gene Okerlund PC, definitely still have that. The only side PC that I moved all the cards of were Phil Rizzuto, but I still have a 52 Topps Phil Rizzuto. So listen, I'm kind of like a dog. If something comes in my line of direction, I'm sometimes I'll shift. I wish I had the discipline that some collectors have. I definitely don't. So let me get to some of these comments real quick. Jake says, Rob, I heard your wife is a huge Eagles fan. Never. Ziggy says, Giant Super Bowls were as wildcard teams. They win when you least expect it. Don't play so coy. Ziggy, you're absolutely right. But here's the thing. That's why you can never get your hopes up about them. Like, you can have a little bit of hope, but to have faith in them, no. I never have faith that the Giants are going to make a run. Especially at this time of year. So Brian Kane says, as a Giants fan, I think they finally have the right coach and GM. That gives me faith. Brian, I agree. I completely agree. I don't know if they have the right quarterback, though. Jake says, box seats are the way to go. Only been able to sit in the box at the Garden and Fenway. Global says, good day there, champion. So, guys, yeah, appreciate you guys tuning in. So, all right, moving along. Last week, I want to say thank you to Cousin Oz and Cousin Tony. Last week, they invited me to be a guest host on their podcast during their live stream every Thursday night. They do a live stream. They do a great job. Tony was on vacation, so he said, hey, man, do you want to sub in and go with Oz? And I said, yeah, man, of course. I think this is probably the second or third time I've done it with them. So definitely shout out to the cousins and everything that they do on Thursday nights. It's super entertaining, super informative, all that good stuff. Not sure if any of you checked out the Jeremy Lee interview that he just did, the one with Jimmy, Joe, and Brian. They're like the three-headed monster that is the new management team for the National. And Jeremy, good guy, man. I know he gets some flack sometimes, but Jeremy, I consider him in my content creator Wolfpack. Him along with Dustin, Sports Card Dad, Jake, 90s B-Ball Cards, and definitely a few others. But those are guys that I talk to on quite a regular basis. I mean, Jeremy and Dustin, I feel like I'm probably texting with daily. But yeah, great interview. And talking about the National, talking about the future of the National and everything that goes into it. I think they did a good job of answering the questions. They also did a good job of not answering some of the questions. There were some things that were like, well, the only way to read the bylaws, the only way to find and read the bylaws is if you are a board member. But the only way to be a board member is if you've been a dealer for 5 straight years. But at the same time, they're saying, well, if people don't like the way that the National is being run, then why don't some new guys get in there? But then in the same breath, they're talking about how there's a 400 or 600 person wait list to become a dealer there. So it's like a lot of kind of the waters. I think they did a good job. I think they did a good job. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen when Fanatics starts putting on these massive events. That's what I'm really curious about. I think that's going to drive the national more than any new management team will. And I think the way that the management team of Jimmy, Joe, and Brian respond to what they're seeing from Fanatics, I think that's going to be interesting. So I'm excited to see that. Either way, I definitely want to be involved with the national. I definitely want to be involved with the Fanatics events. So, hopefully I'll have some involvement there. So hopefully, these are good events. I don't see why they wouldn't be. You know, I can see Fanatics having more theatrics, and that could hurt them or help them. For me, I want it to be more about cards, and I think that's what makes the national so special, is that when you really get out of the corporate area and you are on that main floor, and I think they said that there was over 500,000 square feet this year in Chicago, and for most of that square footage, man, it was nothing but cards. Nothing but cards. And that was a beautiful thing. So hopefully Fanatics does a good job with that and they don't turn it into too much of a circus. I guess that's all I'll say. But yeah, Jeremy Lee, great job, man. Hat off to you, salute to you. Great interview with them. Great interview with them. So over the last week or so, I was on a few different podcasts. I had a busy week. Last week, I was on 3 different podcasts. People are probably getting sick of me by now. That's not my intent. Trust me. When I actually turn down a lot of people that ask me to come on their show, and it's not because I'm too good. It's not because I don't want to like give light to lesser known shows. It has nothing to do with that. I think it's like I don't want people to get sick of me either, right? I mean, and also going on first of all, I went on 3 different podcasts, but Denny Cards had me on twice. So I basically recorded 4 additional podcasts last week, aside from my own, which I recorded too. So it definitely becomes a lot. I know it's like a first world problem. It's like a luxury problem. I'm not trying to complain or anything, but that's just what the case is. So I was on Cards to the Moon. I was on their podcast. They did a phenomenal job, really good podcast. They put out good social media content as well. And then, like I said, I was on Denny's Cards. I did Denny's Cards last week, and he after an hour, he was like, "Oh, Rob, I still have so much to talk about. Can you come on again?" And so I said, "Yeah, I can come on again." So we recorded a second hour last week, and like I said, then I did the thing with the cousins, so that was great. And listen, anytime I could talk about cards, that's all I want to talk about. And Denny and I had some good conversations. He talked about how long he's been in the hobby, and he talked about starting up his Instagram page and a lot of negative feedback he's getting, and how I think there's kind of like a negative vibe when it comes to him. Not that he gives off negative vibes, but I think, I don't know. It was just a good conversation. And basically, what I had said to him on the air, on his podcast, was because he talked about how he's been getting like hate messages and kind of like been getting bullied a little bit, and from people on social media. And all I said was like, listen, man, people are protective over this hobby. People are protective over this hobby. And if you go from 0 to 100 with your content, like basically no one knew who you were 6 months ago, and now all of a sudden you're posting 5 times a day. None of it has to do with cards. It's all about content. You're tagging PSA, you're tagging Michael Rubin, you're going above and beyond. And with, like, I'll use the word theatrics, like, people get protective over this hobby, and for good reason. I'm not saying that, trying to publicly bully people or say anything negative and trying to use put downs against people is right. I'm not saying that, but I've said it on my podcast before that when we put content out there, you're public property at that point, meaning people have every right to tune into you or tune you out. And guess what? Not everyone's going to love you. Not everyone loves me. So that was a pretty interesting conversation that we had in this podcast, and I was glad that he brought it up, and I was glad that he allowed me to disagree with him on a few things. So, it is what it is. I guess so. So that was my week last week. So as far as PWCC goes, I am still working with PWCC. I'm still, I guess, contracted with them, you would say. However, I did ask them. Basically, my contract was up, and we were about to renew a contract. And I said, "Listen, I don't want to do Sunday nights anymore. Following the vintage cards in your auction, as much as I absolutely love doing it." I love it. I love the community that was built. I love the guys that were constantly there. Loved it, but it really, really kind of bumped into my Sundays. Like my entire Sunday basically was scheduled around the fact that I had to be up late to do that. So now what I'm doing is I'm doing some social media content with them. And so I guess be on the lookout for that. I already dropped one reel. So I dropped it's like a 60-second video, and I did it talking about the 1956 Mickey Mantle card. I had a great time doing that, and I'm looking forward to doing more of those. So you can see that on my Instagram page or my Twitter page. So no more Sunday nights. Again, thank you very much to everyone that would tune in and be a part of it with me. I'm just going to check out comments real quick. So Brian Kane says, I agree 100% on corporate at the National. It was just in the way, but I get it. That is needed for different types of collectors. James Lumen says, fantastic episodes with Denny, by the way, brother. Highly suggest people go listen to those. The Loud Collector says, well said. We can all disagree about certain things in the hobby, but we all meet in the middle at the core. Protect what we love. So I got a DM. So last week I had mentioned something in very in passing. I think I was talking to Big Ken, and we were talking about how about the community. I had said like how the vintage community is incredible. The vintage community is second to none in my opinion, from my experience. And this group chat that I'm part of, there's probably about, I want to say 20, 25, maybe 30 of us tops, and incredibly supportive, incredibly everyone celebrates each other's wins and pickups. Everyone's super helpful whenever there's questions. So, and I had said that I had tried starting an Eli Manning group chat with a bunch of Giants and Eli collectors, but it just didn't work out. So that was all I said. So I get a DM from I guess one of the guys that was in the Eli Manning chat. So he hits me up. Okay. He hits me up, and this is what he says. Let me see. So this was NY Giants _ rarities. So New York Giants rarities. He says, of course, I heard your shade on the Eli chat last weekend. Just kidding. I get, though, honestly, what you said about the community and vintage, and it ain't there with Giants collectors, man. LOL. It's competitive and definitely a lot of envy, to be honest. I was just talking to someone saying how Giants collectors would rather put their collections in a closet than let other collectors add pieces they need. It's weird, but yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about that. And I said, oh, wow. So you think that's the way it is? There's just not enough Eli to go around? That was my response. He says, I don't know. It's that, or it was so cheap and some people were used to paying less. I'm not sure, but go back and look how cheap Eli was during the boom and pre-2020. It didn't start to pick up until recently when everyone became a collector. It's just something I've noticed, and that I get more messages about cards available that might interest me from non-Giants collectors. And Giants collectors are stingy AF. So I am wondering, that does make me wonder, people that have been in this hobby and haven't left, haven't stopped buying, right? Because I know I've collected on and off throughout my life, but I went through probably an 8 to 10 year period where I didn't buy a card, right? I think the last cards I bought were like 2010, 2012, and I didn't buy anything. Oh, look at that. That's actually an alarm going off for an auction that I am trying to win. So I didn't buy anything for about 8 to 10 years. So I'm wondering how people feel that were buying heavy, that were, have always been big, like hardcore card collectors in 2015, 2016, how they feel now that the basement floor has been raised. I'm curious about that. So if anyone out there can, give me any insight into how you feel now that prices have gone up, obviously your collection I'm sure has gone up uh in comparative to what you paid for it, what you're into it for. But now things get different when you're trying to buy out of pocket. So yeah, I am curious about that. Um, so side note, moving along, terrible transition on my part, but I want to shout out Iowa Dave and his podcast, The Shallow End. So The Shallow End has been released on the Wolfpack Network on podcast on YouTube, all that stuff. So if you look up the Wolfpack Network, you will see Iowa Dave and his Shallow End series that he started putting out. I think he's on episode 7 right now, and what an incredible podcast he is putting together. Every single episode right on the money. And for me, I've said it before, I'm someone, I consume a lot of podcasts, so I probably consume between 3 to 4 hours a day. And I listen to everything on like 1.75 speed or even sometimes double speed, depending on, how fast the person talks, typically. But so that's what enables me to consume that much, because I probably only consume about an hour and a half a day. I probably spend an hour and a half a day just listening to podcasts, but it's usually always on like double speed. So yeah, definitely I wanted to show Iowa Dave some love. And so I've heard people use this term before. Are we in the junk content era? I'm not sure if you guys have heard this. So we've talked about junk wax, right? Junk wax being late 80s, early 90s. We've heard junk slabs, right? With just the millions and millions of graded cards by PSA, Beckett, SGC, CSG, all the other acronyms you can think of. Now, are we in the junk content era? Is there so much content out there that is garbage? And if it is, how do you sift through the rubble and find the diamonds? I'm kind of curious how you guys do that. Do you guys go by word of mouth? Do you try to give everything a one-time listen before you commit? I'm curious about that. I know that there's a lot of content out there, and I say a lot of times on my show that there's a lot of different shows that you could be listening to or watching. So if you are listening or watching mine, thank you very, very much, because time is the most valuable thing in the world. So, just wanted to say that. So are we in the junk content era? And I'm curious. Yeah, curious what you guys think of that. Now, we talked a little bit about content. No, you know what? I think I'm going to skip this topic. I think it might hit too close to home for some. So I think I'm going to. I think I'm going to skip this topic. So I talked a little bit on Denny's episode. Listen to this about this card. So I bought that. So I was watching an eBay page ending a ton of auctions right around the same time, right? A bunch of cards. So I saw like 3 cards I really wanted that I'm like, I'm getting those cards. And then I started to see other PSA graded cards that were basically going for 99 cents. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to start bidding on all these and just take them all home. You know what ended up happening? I didn't end up winning any of those 3 cards. And I ended up winning a single card I have no idea who this person is. Dominic Barlow, 2021 Topps Chrome Overtime Elite Purple, PSA 10, numbered out of 99. Numbered out of 99. I think I got it for $7. Why I even set my price for that high, I have no idea. So after taxes and shipping, I basically paid $14 for this card. And I'm never going to sell this card. I will always keep it right here next to me as a reminder of what happens when I just can't stop hitting the place a bid button on eBay for no reason. I think, it's just something that I realize I probably need to get better at. I need to get better at being smarter with the cards I'm bidding on. And that's just what it comes down to. So I wanted to show that real quick. Real quick. Good luck to everyone in your fantasy football leagues. Good luck. I think I'm in 3, maybe 4 leagues this year. And I try not to do too many. 3 is usually my limit. I think 3 is what I'm in. So I just dropped out of the Card Talk pod. I just dropped out of their fantasy football league. I was in it last year. It was awesome, but I'm in too many this year. So I dropped out of Card Talk. So shout out to Ryan, Lou, and Tyler. Best of luck this year. So a couple days ago, Ryan from Mind Cycle Cards posted this Logan Paul video because I think people have been seeing Logan Paul got a package of cards from Shine, right? From Shine. I don't even know what else to say about him. I really don't know. I know that he's got a checkered past, and I know that, I don't know. I don't do my research. I don't research other people like that. And it was a Logan Paul bought at the same time. I believe it was a Michael Jordan rookie PSA 10 and a 2003 exquisite out of 99 LeBron RPA. So Ryan from Mind Cycle Cards posted this disturbing video of the Logan Paul NFT game he tried to develop like a year or two ago, and it ended up turning into a huge S show, and he ended up like juking a ton of people out of a ton of money, like millions of dollars. He was like making false claims. I don't know if they're false. All I know is this was a very well done 30-minute documentary on Logan Paul and this game he tried to develop for NFTs. And yeah, so I just wanted to give Ryan at Mind Cycle Cards a little shine. So shout out to him, man. Ryan does some pretty good things too, as well. In the hobby, covering a ton of content. So as we're wrapping up here, so I got a DM actually tonight from John, and he is at PG10856 on Instagram. Randomly, haven't talked to this guy. I don't know if I've ever talked to him before, but yeah, I've talked to him before actually. I don't remember the last time when, but randomly he says, "Hello, my friend. I wanted to send you a message to get your input on the 1993 SP, the foil, Derek Jeter rookie. And what I've noticed is that a PSA 10 of the card is between 100 to 150K. But a PSA 9 of that card is only selling for 6K. Is there something wrong with this picture, or is it just me?" The only thing I responded back to him was, listen, very quickly, I just did a quick pop check. I went to Card Ladder and I looked up the pop counts. And I said, the PSA 10 is a population of only 21. PSA 9 is 621. That's just all it comes down to. And his response was, yeah, but don't you think that's too crazy of a disparity? And then I said, look at the Jordan PSA 10s versus the PSA 9s. Look at that disparity and look at the percentage where that adds up. So I think the only reason why I bring this up is because I get random messages like this from people daily, and I love it. I love getting random messages from people about cards that aren't on my mind. I'm not thinking about, but are still really cool, inquisitive questions, because what that usually does is that sparks something in my brain, and before you know it, you'll end up on my show, right? Either if it's me mentioning it like now, or if it's me bringing you on as a guest. So, I mean, pretty cool. So shout out to John. Thank you very much for messaging me with that. So I guess that's it, guys. So I guess that is it. Yeah, I have some great guests lined up over the next couple weeks. I'm not gonna spoil it and talk about anyone right now, but yeah, I guess that's it, man. So Jake 90s b-ball card says, feel free to hit close to home, bud. The community needs it. You're right, man. You're right. I'm not someone though that tries to even post stuff like that. Like I see people constantly. And Jake, I think you even posted something either today or yesterday about something. And my whole thing is I don't even want to bring stuff up unless I'm going to be saying names. Like, I don't know. I hate when, I don't want to say I hate, but it falls flat when, if I were to like make like a really meaningful post or make or have a really meaningful conversation, um and then not attach any names to it, to me the entire message kind of falls flat. And I've said this many times. I think I might have said it to Jake before. I think I've said it to Josh from Card Ladder before. I've said it to Dave Extraordinary Cards. Like they'll post like these incredible points about the hobby, and like you almost know who they're talking about. You almost know who they're talking about. But I'll hit them back in a message and be like, say their name. Like say their name, because just say their name. You know what I mean? I don't know. So that's why I think I didn't even want to say anything. I hate being vague. I hate making like really good points and then being vague. But I also get why people might not say names, because no one wants to make enemies in the hobby. No one wants to be looked at as a bully. No one wants to punch down, no one wants to be looked at as punching down. So I don't know. So that's why I skipped it, Jake. I appreciate that though, man. Thank you. But yeah, I didn't want to say anything that might have sounded like it was like taking shots at specific people. So Brian Kane says, I think the junk content era was during COVID. A lot of content creators have come and gone, and I think we are now seeing the cream rising to the top now with the quality creators. Brian, you might be right, man. You might be right, because I don't necessarily have my finger on the pulse of all the content in the hobby. I don't. But I know that Iowa Dave, one thing that he does is he posts um every day he posts podcasts that are dropping. And I want to say he has at least like 30 different podcasts in rotation that release at least one episode a week. So that's a lot. That feels like a lot. I think in the grand scheme of things, like 30 to 50 podcasts are not many at all. But in what still kind of feels like a small, tight community, I think 30 to 50 podcasts is a lot. So Jake says the snipe apps help with the impulse bidding. Look at the gap between the MJ Scoring Kings PSA 9 and 10. Degenerate Card Collector says, say my name, B. Orlando Collector's Dream says, hello, everyone. Hello, guys. So this was 45 minutes of random thought. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope I didn't do too much rambling. I know I definitely rambled. So anytime I do a live podcast like this, it is always going to be uploaded to my actual podcast that goes out on Spotify, Apple iTunes, all that stuff. So anytime you see me live here, that's what I do. I upload it afterward. And yeah, I guess if you're listening to this on podcast, then I guess you know that, hey, maybe subscribe on YouTube or subscribe to my Instagram page or whatever the case. But Degenerate Card Collector says, nice show. Thanks. I appreciate you very much, man. Thank you. Thank you. So that is it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. The goal here is just, continuously drop episodes on Mondays and Thursdays. So that's about it, guys. And then obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, it's always going to be that night before. So thanks a lot, guys. Don't forget, take care of yourselves and your collection. Have a good one.